Travis Wayne Good Soul. Let's find out if the Mormon YouTube employee is skipping church today to protect the poor, helpless, indefensible, false church from big, bad, mean old me, with further cyber terrorism shutting down my camera. Or if I'll be allowed to do this video. This video is a special video. It's going to require prerequisite knowledge, so it's only going to be for those who have been following me and are going to be rewarded herein. Those of you who are brand new because YouTube made the mistake of recommending the video for you, you're not going to understand anything that I'm talking about. You're going to be confused, and something that's unknown and confusing is therefore evil and has to be destroyed. Because you've been weaponized by the church to believe. And so, as I was inspired to check on a Dan scripture, stumbled across a bombshell. Growing up in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the Covenant Path, we're told Joseph Smith is the founder of our church, the founding prophet, seer, revelator, translator. And because I was in the first seminary class for the brand new edition of the Quad, with footnoting, Bible dictionary, topical guide, HEBs in the Old Testament, GRs in the New Testament, we were instructed to study our scriptures. And the intention is that we only study what the church provides us to study. That we don't go beyond it. That we don't actually learn Hebrew and Greek. They've provided what's necessary for us to learn about Hebrew and Greek. And so, for example, you'll find in the Old Testament some IEs and ORs. Well, those were the ones that Avraham Gileadi did that the church didn't approve of, and so they corrected him. They do not want you to go beyond what they want you to know. And so there are purposely neglectful footnoting and lack thereof, so that you don't find out the truth. And so it helps to actually know Biblical Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic, Babylonian Semitic Hebrew, Paleo Hebrew. Problem: nobody had deciphered Paleo Hebrew. There were claims, they're all wrong. And so, believing that Joseph Smith is true from the King Follett sermon, saying the biblical Hebrew text is wrong, I wanted to know. But I didn't know how to know. We didn't have Google search, didn't know how to learn language. In a library in Lethbridge, Alberta, I found a Biblical Hebrew English Bible, and I went through, I've never bothered to check to see if there is one. That's a lexicon. No flashcards. The NASB. I guess it's just because I had the Jewish Publication Society's book. That one's $90. This is the Bible Society in Israel. Interlinear Hebrew, Greek, English. $24. Wow. Oh, keyed to Strong's. Interesting. So the Old Testament also is in Greek? I'll have to leave this up on the screen. But, introductory grammar, there's the Jewish Publication Society's version, which I highly recommend because theirs is the only accurate one for Biblical Hebrew. They refuse to allow anybody else to have a version of it. Lexicon. My version is a small one. This is the larger size one. Huh. Imitation leather too. Earned 32 points. I've never used points. Transliteration, translation. And not sure what that version was back in University of Lethbridge, but regardless. I couldn't figure out how to translate Biblical Hebrew. It's not Latin based. And so I needed to know the difference. And so I was lucky enough to be able to be told by my guidance counselor that they had a teacher there who studied Biblical Hebrew under Thomas O. Lambden of Harvard, and had him do one semester class so that I could graduate with a dual bachelor's and a minor in what she called ancient languages. Knew nothing of the fields of study that I was in, but it doesn't matter. I wasn't interested in majoring. I was just there for the ride. Had no idea what I was going to do for my life, but that's another story. And so, Joseph Smith's King Follett sermon would be proven true with my decipherment of Paleo-Hebrew 6 months after I graduated and moved to Utah. And so, August 1996 is when I moved to Utah, and by February 1997, I had deciphered the Paleo-Hebrew script, for which the wife at the time said her kids would not learn Hebrew and left. Doesn't matter if Joseph Smith is a translator, he just isn't. What? Only the president of the church can be a translator. Well, yeah, but Joseph is right. No, only the president of the church can tell us how Joseph was right. But he's not. None of them are. And then you get apologists who say that he's wrong. And then they come out with the translation and historicity of the Book of Abraham, and John Gee would say Joseph was wrong. He's not even a translator, he's a revelator. Brigham Young would call revelator an astrologer. So, anyway, I have exclusive knowledge as a result of being the one who deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. And without going into further discussion of how I did it and why I did it and what was the reason, I only had an answer, I got my answer, I'm done. But I'm well aware that there's a whole world out there to uncover. But I got my answer, I'm done. If somebody wants to learn from me, from what I've published and made available for free on academia, great, you can publish, and then I'll read your work if I want to learn anything about it. Otherwise, stuff like this pops up and I go, oh, I'm the only one on earth who knows this. Plato said that I have to share. And so here I am. So, the Bible, written by Jews, prophecy, revelation. Joseph Smith translation, Revelation chapter 1, verse 1. Sign in the heaven, that's revelation, day and hour. In the likeness of things on the earth. Prophecy, prediction of the future. So the book of Revelation is a prediction of the future. It's not talking about Jesus in the Roman period time 200 years previous to the writing of the book of Revelation. It is not literal history. Except for the first part where he's talking to the different congregations in Turkey. That part is correct, because there were churches in Turkey. Sort of. It's unclear. I'd have to go back and check. It's not really a question I want to get into today. We're going over Dan. And so, as a result, the author of Genesis, from where we first learn of Dan, is specifically trying to teach you something through the process called repetition. And so he names the various characters as he goes along. And so in Genesis chapter 1, corrected, you have the god Yah, son of Yah, who is put in charge of the creation of heaven and earth, which is actually his birth. Babies inside the mother's womb is surrounded by water. And so thus, the baby, surrounded by water, water breaks, waters are parted, dry land comes out. That is a Jewish pattern found in many different stories in many different ways. Moses parts the waters, passes through on dry ground into the promised land with the house of Israel. All of this has to do with each other. And so you've got Isaiah, who just spouts off prophecies. And so, talking to the house of David, he says, I'll give you a sign, which is a sign in the heavens, A virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel, not Jesus. That is just a statement prophecy with its accompanying revelation, the day and the hour. When you get into Matthew, chapter 1, you see that he's referring to the house of David, and then he quotes from a prophecy. A virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Sign is removed, but he gives you the sign in a different way. He doesn't name Isaiah as the prophet, who is the source for that revelation. But instead of naming his Christ of the character of his book, the author says that the name is going to be Jesus, despite the prophecy needing to be fulfilled. Names him Jesus instead of Emmanuel. It's because Jesus in Hebrew is the reverse of Isaiah. Because anybody who knows Hebrew, knows the various scriptures, would know and catch on to this. But in English, where Christians emerge to cause a stumbling block on scriptures and scripture interpretation, it's now literal history. Prophecy and revelation have disappeared. Where'd it go? Is it homuzion, like Jesus of Constantine's first creed of Christianity, the Nicene Creed? No. Because of the creation of homuzion, Jesus, they have to deny science, astronomy, day and hours, for revelation purposes. And thus they can't have prophecies of a future Christ for the Jews. They now have to turn the scriptures into literal history that Jesus already came 300 years previous. And so everybody just needs to live in harmony. Kumbaya. And so 4 billion people on earth today are waiting for Jesus to come down and smite the wicked and establish the kingdom of Zion. But which Christian branch is going to win out? Because Christianity is full of over at least 100, if not 1,000, different branch-offs. So is it the Baptist Jesus, the Catholic Jesus, the Methodist Jesus, the Presbyterian Jesus, the Evangelical Jesus? They're kind of ahead of the rest of other Christian sects, even the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, even though the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints were the ones who activated the evangelicals to do the work for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for them. Thinking that the evangelicals will get busted so that the church can get their kingdom back. Tricked ya! Now you got to join our church. Well, sorry, if you're going to put Trump in office, you're going to have to bow the knee to Trump. He's not going to hand over the keys of government to you, Nelson. But regardless, notwithstanding, even Islam believes in a Jesus who's supposed to come back and their judgment day. In Hebrew is Dan. It's also a different, the book of Judges is a different spelling of Dan, or different spelling of different Hebrew. And so, Genesis is a story version like Matthew. fulfilling the prophecies of the prophets, like Isaiah. But there's weirdness going on in Genesis. Because, for example, you have the pattern of usurpation of the birthright and blessing by the brother. And there's often twins involved. And you get, as a result, the birthright blessing fulfillment through the usurper of the birthright and blessing. And so, for example, we start off with Cain and Abel. Cain murders Abel. Abel is the firstborn, isn't he? I'll have to come back. Five? Nope, it's 4. Nope, Cain is the birthright blessing son. Interesting. But I see how he's adjusting it. He didn't like it's weird. This needs to be reworded in story form, but to know the original Egyptian document from which this came from, all prophecies come from the Egyptians, by the way. In case you didn't know that the brass plates was in Egyptian. And that the Book of Mormon starts us off with the Jews in Judah who were pre-Babylonian captivity Egyptians. I'm trying to help you out with your understanding of the Bible and where it originated from, thus fulfilling Ezekiel 37. But you don't have the keys to do that. The keys of Nephi, corrected with Joseph Smith's second vision of his Doctrine and Covenants 27:5. But that Willard Richards trying to cover things up and hide things from you. And so, yeah, you have Cain, who's the older brother, slays Abel. It's technically Abel who's supposed to be the older brother, and then Cain is the usurping brother, whose descendants should be Noah. But the author didn't like that. And so what you have instead is you have Cain slaying Abel, but then the next son, whose name is Seth. In the Egyptian documents, that's the one who murders Osiris, of whom Horus comes through. And it's a spiritual birth with Isis, but a physical birth with the branch through Set in the latter-day battle to restore the throne. And so this is an interesting twist that the Genesis author is doing here. Because technically, Abel is supposed to be the older brother. Cain, being the younger brother, wants to rule, gets angry, and murders his brother, and takes over the family tribal unit, of whom would then bear Noah. But instead, the Genesis author didn't like that and did some adjusting to mix it up. But interesting, both have Enoch as a son, or grandson, or whatever. So that's interesting, but nonetheless. And so Noah is the Christ who restores the throne. But then, after the waters part, dry land appears, John the dove on the top of the mountain with the Ark of the Covenant, same pattern. you now have the sons of Noah. As the father becomes the son becomes the father. And what you have is now Ham losing the birthright and blessing because of something Canaan did. That's interesting. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, chapter 9. Okay. I probably should find out. There's the breath of Ruah, which Rachel. They have Shem, Ham, Japheth. So again, Shem is the older son. Ham is the younger son, but he's supposed to be the one that usurps the birthright blessing. This is a weird thing that's going on here. See, now it's switched. Cain is the oldest one. Abel is the one who dies. Shem is the oldest one, but Ham is the one who loses the birthright blessing. Weird. Alright. And so in verse 9, or chapter 9, verse 9, 20. And Noah began to be a husbandman, planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with being naked in your tent. However, Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his two brethren without, Shem and Japheth, took underwear, covenant bath underwear, laid it upon their shoulders, went backward, covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. What? I mean, yeah, men are ugly. Who would want to see a man naked? But still. See, even women don't want to see men naked. It has to be in the dark, in the bed, under the covers, and wearing your underwear. Right, women? Noah woke from his wine, knew what his younger son had done unto him, and then curses Canaan. A servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he blessed Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And so, yes, there's some problems here. But fortunately, Joseph Smith fixed this in Abraham chapter 1, so that it's all cleared up. We now know that Ham got Noah in his drunken state to seal Canaan and Egyptus, the daughter of Ham and Egyptus, to give birth to the first Pharaoh of Egypt. Ham is Egypt, by the way, in the masculine form. Hemet is the feminine form for the land of Egypt. And so I don't know why they're giving Ham Mitzrayim for Egypt. Ham is Egypt. Anyway, so Shem, yeah, if you know your Hebrew, that's name. Amen, Emmanuel. Odd Dode creation glyph from the Egyptians. That is Amen. And so knowing Hebrew, knowing Egyptian, helps. And so there are new names that are also given. Yah in Genesis chapter 1, for example, when he completes the birth, he's given the new name Yahweh, Jehovah, as you incorrectly know it as. And so thus the naming of babies is prophetic within the prophecy for the future. Because none of these are literal history. See the genius of the Genesis author, despite the weirdness? Not quite following the book in the creation of his movie. But nonetheless, knowing these things assists you in figuring things out and getting a better understanding of the prophecy that they're explaining for you in the learning of the Jews. And so, you need to understand the law of the Jews. Law is the highest form that everybody must obey. That is the book of Deuteronomy. And so you have the 10 Commandments in there, which has an anachronism. It's got the Babylonian Sabbath day in it. Just like the creation has 7 days for creation. That's a Babylonian influence. Thus, you know that the biblical author of Genesis is post-Babylonian captivity. And so you're going to see some Babylonianisms incorporated in his book for the purpose of the future prophecy. So John the Revelator, talking about prophecies of the future, not the Roman period Jesus, of Christians, refers to a great and abominable church as Babylon the whore. I refer you to Doctrine and Covenants, section 1, verse 16. Joseph Smith, prophesying of the future. Who went against the temple? Who? Who is he talking to? In 14, 15, and 16 Mormons? Who? If you're confused, section 103, verses 15 to 17. If you can't figure it out from your Book of Mormon. Okay, and so, then you have Abraham, who pulls a usurpation on Pharaoh. But it's weird. He tells his wife, say you're my sister. And so she still gets kidnapped and raped by Pharaoh. But the author tries to tell us he's not the father. Even though Abraham couldn't give her a child. But Hagar could get a child from Abraham, which becomes Ishmael. And Ishmael is Yah, name, sun god symbol, El. Yah's name is sun god, Emmanuel, the Egyptian sun god at noonday, Amen. Shem, the name. And so, knowing Hebrew helps you with the prophecies and revelations and understanding it. Like I said, this is higher level learning for you. This is only a reward for those who've been following me and have been studying their scriptures rather than reading, pondering, and praying over my videos to get the right feeling. Which the majority of you are getting the wrong feeling. Naughty. Okay? Mitzrayim, dear God. And so, yeah, Babel. That's Beirut, Lebanon. It's not of Babylon. Because again, of Babylon did not come into existence until right before 600 BCE. Babylon did not exist. So you can't say that if this is supposed to be literal history, and that this therefore is pre-Babylon, you can't say that it's Babel in Babylon. You can't say that it just doesn't work. Babylon didn't exist. It's like saying that Jesus of the Gospels is the Christian Jesus. Can't be. Didn't exist yet when the authors wrote it. Okay? And so, Isaac, son of Pharaoh, who is an interesting spelling because they never name the Pharaoh. The author never names who Pharaoh is. But Pharaoh contains the name Ra, which is sun god, which is not Amen. It's different in Egyptian. In Egyptian, you have Amen as the sun god at noonday. And so you have Khepre as the morning god of the sun, and then Atum as the evening sun god. Ra is the actual sun that's out right now, that you see all day long. This is a different type of sun in translation. And so yes, under the 19th dynasty, the Ra Moseses, Ra Mose, they incorporated Ra to replace the 18th dynasty David Moseses. Tawu Mose, who had the priesthood of Amen. Section 107, verses 2, 3, maybe 4. Why we call it the Melchizedek priesthood? It's because Amen in Paleo-Hebrew is the sun symbol, the high priest symbol, M, and the N, king symbol, from the Egyptian hieroglyphs. Remember, I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. Know what I'm talking about. And so Melchizedek is a spelled out two-word combination. Melech, king. Zadok, high priest. Sun symbol, high priest symbol, king symbol. Melech, Melchizedek. Melchizedek priesthood of the order of the sun god at noonday. Amen. the name that Joseph Smith gave to our Christ. Joseph Smith, however, spelled it Aweman. The Danites spelled it Ahman. They're the ones who forged section 116 to call it Adam Ondi Amen. You need to know these things if you're going to catch on to what's going on in the bigger picture when you're doing your research of church history. And so, Isaac is the one who usurps the birthright blessing of Ishmael. And so then Isaac has Jacob and Esau, twins. And sure enough, Esau is the older son. Jacob is named usurper because he's prophesied to usurp the birthright and blessing from Esau. Sure enough, he fulfills it. Whew, that was a close one. They tell you the end of the story at the beginning of his birth. And so it's like watching Star Trek from chronological order, even though I've already seen the future ones and have been gone back to the beginning. I already know that so-and-so's not going to die because they're going to appear in future episodes, as well as be referred to in future shows. So Tuvok, for example, I'm in Voyager right now. I saw him on Deep Space Nine when he was part of the Maquis in the underground. He was a spy for the Federation in the Maquis. And so seeing him on Deep Space Nine, oh, yep, there he is. And so, yeah, kind of cool that way, even though the overall theme of the Federation is evil. But nonetheless, as long as you don't treat it as literal and practice the precepts of Star Trek in your daily life and impose them upon other people, you'll be just fine if you treat it as just entertainment. But you have those who watch Star Wars, for example, and who want to form a Sith Lord cult. God. Unbelievable. You know, it's one thing to be excited and have Comic-Cons and Star Trek-a-cons and may the fourth be with you, or is it fifth? The fifth is Cinco de Mayo, so it's got to be the fourth. May the fourth be with you. But to become a completely different person and tell people that you're going through the Ponfar, you're taking it a little too far. You're not supposed to do that. And usually people who do that were the ones who were doing drugs while listening to Led Zeppelin. Oh my God. So yeah, you're being manipulated. If you don't know how to learn. So just think of all the chaos from just the incorrect interpretation and translation of the Bible. All these people who are committing crimes for Jesus and holy wars for Jesus. Our Jesus will prevail, and that's who's next. because Jacob gets the new name, Israel. Yah, Prince of God. He usurped the birthright and blessing from Esau. Esau would go on to have a son with Ra. Well, name was Ra. As Judith kind of disappears and it becomes a different name in the list of wives for Esau. It's kind of weird that way, and it's actually the second wife whose child is identified as Ra. But again, the Genesis author does some weird stuff. And even Esau itself, like I said, this is going to be a special video for you, but we're having to set up the thing. 25, okay. Because I think his name has Shua, salvation of the Son. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's just salvation in reverse. And so Isaiah, Shua, Yah. Jesus, Yah, Shua. Esau, switching the letters of salvation. Everything else needs to be removed from Paleo Hebrew. Oh, no. Okay. And so Esau's birthright blessing gets usurped, and in so doing, Esau says, "Thou hast been rightly named. You usurped my birthright and blessing from me." It's not just taking of the pottage, it's also the father's blessing. And so thus Malachi, the angel, which it is Malachi in Hebrew. It's just translated as angel when it's technically messenger. But nonetheless, you need to know the prophecies of Malachi. So when Joseph Smith has his second vision, who appears to him? He calls himself a messenger from the presence of God. Malachi, messenger. He is described by Joseph as the sun god at noonday, Emmanuel. He then says his name is Nephi, not Moroni. And then quotes from Malachi about what? The day that shall burn as an oven. And so he gives him the Book of Mormon, gold plates, Egyptian gold plates. Joseph Smith is prophesying and revealing to you in 1838, claiming to go back in time to rewrite his own history, if you're going to call it literal. And so ex-fo nevermos have said, no, Joseph Smith, no, this never happened. This is weird. He's got these other stories of other angels and a salamander and slippery plates. It's because you're taking them literally. No. You're not supposed to say Joseph Smith translated the Book of Mormon with a rock and a hat. He had nothing to do with the Book of Mormon. Nothing. No composition in the Book of Mormon was by Joseph. Sidney Rigdon is the major author of the Book of Mormon. And I'm the one who told you Joseph Smith Sr. had to rewrite the 116 pages of William Morgan after Jr. let them be stolen by Martin Harris because his child died. And so he went to the Methodist church of his wife's family. And they said, hey, weren't you arrested for glass looking? There's no such thing as prophecy and revelation in these days. Get out of our town. Go to that other Harmony that's no longer called Harmony while your dad rewrites the 116 pages for you while you're on a timeout for a whole year. Helps to know the truth. Okay, and so Jacob has 4 wives. The first 2 are Rachel and Leah. Rachel. Rachel. There is no L, so it's just the L. And then Rach for spirit. Rakia, expanse, from Genesis chapter 1. And so, as you need to also understand that the time period in which the author is writing is during the Roman period time. And so there's Aramaic also being incorporated into the book, along with Babylonian knowledge as well. So Babylonian, Semitic Hebrew, Aramaic, and Paleo-Hebrew, all being incorporated from the Egyptian documents as the source origin. And so it gets a little tricky if you don't know your languages. But just like with Israel, you can figure it out if you're reading from the Hebrew, even if you don't know Hebrew. Because Yah, yep, that's in the text. Prince, yeah, they even translate it into English as Prince, so that you're not going to be confused with the translation of let God prevail. And then El, yeah, it's in Elohim in the passage. The author is trying to help you out with the meaning of the baby name. And so anybody who makes up their own meaning is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Okay. And so then you have the 12 sons and 1 daughter, kind of important, comes from the Egyptian documents, of Jacob, who is now Israel. And so, Yah, Prince of God, we're going to have the fulfillment of the Christ, who is Noah with Cain and Abel. We're going to find out who is the next Christ being set up for by the Genesis author. Anybody know who he could be? Joseph! Ta-da! Joseph is the Christ of the book of Genesis. It's all leading up to him, and thus ends the book of Genesis with Joseph saving his family in Egypt, the promised land, not Canaan. Which still was part of Egypt if you're going to call it literal history, which was from Ham. And so you see the restoration from the birthright blessing usurper that's involved. Okay? Fun stuff, fascinating stuff, cool stuff. So cool, so cool, so hot, so cool. Forgot about that song. But yeah, that's why Joseph is involved in dreams, seer, visions, dreams. And so Joseph Smith, 2 Nephi chapter 3, prophesied by Joseph Smith Sr., who had to rewrite it, was to be the son of Joseph, a Christ. This is the learning of the Jews. This ain't no Christian religion. Every leader of a tribe is the Christ. If you don't believe that, get out of this church. You should get out of this church anyway. It's not true. But you definitely don't believe in Joseph, do you? So again, section 107. Verse 91 and 92. Joseph Smith tells you directly, as he told Brigham Young, who was newly put into the Quorum of the 12 with Thomas B. Marsh as the president. They were all licensed with the name the Church of the Latter-day Saints, with Joseph's actual signature, all in the Joseph Smith papers. And he's now talking to these newly licensed and called missionaries. Not just the 12, but the 70 for the 12 missionaries, with only the keys of Peter, James, and John, not the keys of the president of the church. So Joseph Smith has to tell them the duty of the president of the office of the high priesthood is to preside over the whole church, not the president of the 12. Thomas B. Marsh is not the president of the 12. He doesn't have the keys for the whole church. Why would you think Brigham did? But here it is. And to be the Christ, a man like Moses. From Deuteronomy 18:15 through 19. The Jewish Christ of prophecy, who's a Emmanuel by name. Descendant of David, the 18th dynasty of Egypt, to restore the religion. So it's not Jesus' religion that Joseph is restoring. Jesus didn't exist. He's restoring the pre-Babylonian captivity Jewish Egyptians. It says so right in the beginning of the Book of Mormon. And so thus, the keys of Moses in the Kirtland Temple in 1836, not on Easter, the third day of Passover, when Malachi says Elijah will suddenly come to his temple. And so Joseph Smith has a vision of Elijah also with Moses and Yahweh for the key of creation. And Elishua, because the gospel of Abraham is the gospel of salvation from the book of Abraham. Got to correct it, because otherwise you're going to think that it's the Greek for Elijah, and why is he repeating Elijah, and why is the other form of Elijah from the Greek have the key of the gospel of Abraham? then you're going to think Joseph is false and he's not true. Nope, it's Elishua. They're all the same deity, just different names. Just like in Genesis, different names. Okay? So seer, which in Egyptian is Peter. Revelator, giving the days and hours. I did the video the other day. From the Book of Mormon, by Joseph Smith Sr., gives you added revelations, not anywhere else. Tells you signs in the heavens for baptism, birth, mission, temple. So I put them all up there for you to show you that the Book of Mormon is true. And yet Mormons still are in denial, denying prophecy and revelation to enforce the Book of Mormon as literal history. Ex-foes not believing either, because the Book of Mormon can't be true either way. Translator and prophet. And so, thus, you will know who this future guy is by his fruits. Matthew chapter 7, verse 15 to whatever, 20. By his fruits you shall know him, not by your feelings about him. He will have visions. He will reveal the days and hours for you. He will be a translator of Paleo, Hebrew, and Egyptian. He will be a predictor of the future. And he showed, Jesus didn't. Okay. So, we're at halftime. So, we'll come back and we'll go over Dan. So, those of you who watched my morning's video today noticed that the Mormon YouTube employee cyber terrorized me while making my video, in which I had to have 3 segments put in for the video. Notice how the first half of this video, the intro, being an hour long, had no interruptions. That's because he's in church right now. He's now being a good boy. Is he though? Is he? In 1838, there was which would eventually be written as a forged document for 116, section 116, in which Adam-on-Diamond was supposedly named by Joseph Smith, who apparently visited there and said all this stuff. Well, he got punked. Newell K. Whitney, in section 117. It's also a forged document, and they kind of blew it because they exposed themselves by doing this. We got to go to it. See, in 1838, David Whitmer and Thomas B. Marsh were being told by those who called themselves Danites that Joseph Smith is the leader of the Danites now, and that he's ordering all Mormons to army against the United States of America, to murder those who do not conform and comply. He's changed the name of the church. It's now the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He's now practicing polygamy, raping other men's wives, raping little girls, rape. He's burning down people's homes. He's forcing people to follow him or threatening them to get out. thus David Whitmer, Thomas B. Marsh, were those among the many who were threatened. Benjamin Franklin Johnson goes to Adam-on-Diamond, gets immediately arrested. He's a Mormon. It's Mormon town, he thought. One of the residents in Mormon town, Adam-on-Diamond, in Missouri, north of Independence, threatens him by pistol or rifle, whatever it was, to deny the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And Benjamin Franklin Johnson is told throughout the church, in seminary and institute and conference and wherever else, that he did not deny his testimony of the truthfulness of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so then the guy shot, and it misfired. It never does that. Oh, it's God, magic, abracadabra. No, Benjamin Franklin Johnson would go on to join the war against Mormons, and would go on later to be a polygamist, despite Section 131 being gutted by Brigham Young when he decided to put part of it in his Doctrine and Covenants right before Section 132, which magically appeared the year before Brigham Young died, in that last Doctrine and Covenants of his. Okay? So understand all this. There's historical context that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is lying about, but can be had if you just research the Joseph Smith papers, like I did. So Section 117 is to Newell K. Whitney. Supposedly it's July 8th, 1838. Didn't get put in the Doctrine and Covenants until the year before Brigham Young died. And so we were told, with the emergence of the Quad, newly edited with footnotes, Bible dictionary, topical guide, told to study, and we were told that the original Doctrine and Covenants had code names. And they deciphered and decoded all of them for us. That Community of Christ Church didn't. They've given up on that anyway, with the new woman leader, who then sold out everything to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for a mere 0.1% of just the tithing revenue alone of $200 million. Oh my God. The church hates women. She should have known this, and she got suckered. And she's, $200 million, yeah, that's a lot for her. That's a big paycheck for being the brand new president of their church. But she could have easily held out for $1 trillion, and the church still would have multi-trillions to spare. Kind of important to know the full playbook of your enemy and the ledger when you're doing a corporate takeover. She got suckered. So anyway, so this has all been decoded. There isn't anything that's coded. Verse 8, is there not room enough on the mountains of Adam-on-Diamond, and on the plains of Olaha, Shinar, or the land where Adam dwelt, that you should covet that which is but the drop and neglect the more weightier measures? Yeah. they forgot that they were supposed to decode this too. Let alone Babylon in section 1, verse 16. What's Babylon decoded, Bruce R. McConkie? Which religion is it? It's a prophecy after Joseph Smith for the latter days. Who is it? What religion is it? Who are the people who are being wicked and violating the temple covenants? Who? Verse 11. Let my servant Newell K. Whitney be ashamed, but Joseph Smith is now the leader of the Danites. What's going on? He used Nicolaitan band. If you check the footnote for 11a, that refers you to Revelation chapter 2, verse 16. And then they have in parentheses, which we were told in the revision of the footnoting in the 2000s, you were supposed to remove parentheses. And if it is supposed to include 15, as it says you should also refer to that, then you put just 6, 15. I didn't get to do this, so I hope it was done right. They were supposed to have done it right. But nonetheless, you'll see that John the Revelator uses Nicolaitan. This is coded. Joseph didn't write this. The Danites did. This is part of that forged document with section 116. Even though this is, this is Revelation, so this is part of the whole thing from the book that had faded ink. And there was some crossouts in it. And then there's space that was there, but now there's fresh ink, which is section 116, 117, probably even others, that we get that Brigham Young finally put in the year before he died, 1876. Now, in case you didn't know about the ink used in those days, the early 1800s, it takes 40 years for ink to fade. Oops. Joseph Smith is 38 when he dies. His birthday would have been on December 23rd, when he would have been 39. Because 44 minus 5, the year he was born, is 38. 39 and December 23rd that year. Okay? Not even old enough for ink to fade yet. And so, 1876, minus 40, 1836. Yeah, here's a little teaser for the ending. Birthright and blessing. I know what I'm talking about. Being usurped. This is prophecy and revelation. You all should have caught on. And so, Joseph Smith apparently is accusing Newell K. Whitney of being a member of the Danites. Adam on Diamond. That's where his home is. And so, same thing with Benjamin Franklin Johnson. They were members of the Danites. Joseph Smith is being accused of condemning Newell K. Whitney for being a member of the Danites at Adam-on-Diamond. But Joseph didn't write this. But the Danites are the ones who told people that Joseph Smith is the leader of the Danites. See how they botched this? This became our canon of Scripture. And it destroys everything else that supposedly Joseph did in 1838 to change everything to Christianity. That should have been your first clue that you were being lied to. So fascinating. So yes, the Danites in 1838, they wanted their election candidates to win. They didn't like the other candidates who were going to cause them problems. Apparently there was even a vote for developing the land, which was Adam-on-Diamond. And so the Danites, that's their secret headquarters. They can't have development on their land. And they're using it as encoding for what they're planning to do for the future, which is what Thomas B. Marsh and, was it Orson Hyde or somebody else said that it was the religion. Thomas B. Marsh was the government. That these Danites were thinking of overthrowing the government and to do it in the future as well. That was their plot. And there was another person who also said that the Danites told him that these Danites are going to overthrow all religions of the world so that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints would be the one and only religion left on the face of the earth with the overthrow of all the world governments. So world governments destroyed, world religions destroyed, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the only one existing, therefore it's the only one and true church on the face of the earth. That was their plot. 200 years ago, and here we go, 2024, they're well on their way. But, you get Chris Stewart's third great-grandfather, who's there. Senator Mike Lee's third great-grandfather, who's there, who also was involved with the Mountain Meadows Massacre on 9/11, 1857. And Cox's fourth, or is it fifth, great-grandfather is also there. And Curtis, his third great-grandfather was there. You know, this is the Danites. Mormons running this church are descendants of the Danites. And they're now in government. They're now cooing America. They're now cooing religion by getting them to do the dirty work for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I warn you, and nobody believes, nobody listens, nobody cares. You don't understand, you don't want to be under the church's rule. As much as you think it would be great, but you don't know the Danites. What they want to do in their heart. If they get the power, they will do what their heart's will desires. I have heard it from my white supremacist Christian nationalist peers. It is horrifying. Only Voyager has had villains, antagonists, who have been the most evil-minded people to justify their abominations towards other living species. Cringeworthy watching these villains at work, because this is what my childhood peers were talking about. We're talking little kids talking about it. They're listening with their older brothers and their daddies to Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity on the radio about what they want to do to blacks, to Mexicans coming across the border, to women, to gays, because LGBTQIAPO+ was not invented yet by psychologists. They are using bullying tactics of psychologists that came from Nazi Germany, because we gave them asylum and put them to work with the CIA, which we've now learned from Trump, as he leaked it, were responsible for assassinating John F. Kennedy, President of the United States of America, under Poppy Bush as a CIA operative, who the receipt of the plane ticket and his hotel there in Dallas that day, along with the photograph at that corner, establishes the fact that he was there. And the CIA, Trump leaked and said, yep, they assassinated him. And so the reason why Trump didn't release it is because he was told not to. He said, he leaked it. I was told not to leak it. And he leaked it. Oh my God. Oh my God. You cannot trust Trump with secrets. He will tell. You can tell him, now keep it a secret. Don't tell anybody, and he'll tell. And so yes, you can trust him when he says he's going to get revenge. That there will be civil war if he doesn't win. Nobody's taking him seriously. We already had 4 years. We know what he's going to do. He was told no for many things the first time around, and he's going to do them again, and now nobody's going to tell him no, because he knows what power he can now possess. Oh, dear God. People just don't get it. And so the Book of Mormon warned you, but you don't care. So, yeah, don't expect to be given your kingdom, church. You have to bow the knee to Trump, unless you're going to betray him. Oops, did I reveal a secret? Dan. Okay? And so, they gather at Adam-on-Diamond and march to the polling location. And they're threatening people not to vote for the other guy. And it's 1,000 Danites. There are 1,000 within Joseph Smith's church that were recruited by Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball from the beginning. We found who finished the book of William Morgan, who's responsible for the burning down of our Masonic Scottish Rites temples. We have a plan to destroy them and resume our plot to destroy America. Join us. Others went down to the south to become the Confederates. Still use the inverted pentagram as their secret sign. The falling star of Lucifer. And so, Chris Stewart's third great grandfather is the one who got punched to the ground to start it. And And the war broke out. You got the Hans Mill massacre that ensued because Mormons were being blamed for the actions of these Danites. It was all this secret combination that was doing it, and they were doing it under the guise of the regular members of Joseph Smith's church, claiming that Joseph Smith is the one giving the orders, so that Mormons would be threatened to join them or be murdered. And those who didn't want to be involved had to leave or were murdered by these Danites. You know, like Desnat. If all-out war breaks out in Utah here, Desnat will be on the front lines of forcing Mormons to join their war against other Mormons, threatening people to deny the truth of the Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon being Jewish and to join in the battle. They are sleeper cells. And all of them know that it's coming. That's why Mitt Romney bailed from the Senate. He knows what's coming. He is not of the Danites. But he is a Mormon who knows of polygamy for the millennium and the overthrow of the government for the church to get their kingdom back. And so he now sees how it's being played out with these MAGA evangelicals. He doesn't know the big picture. He's still in denial. Thinks the church is true. Still wears his underwear. Still pays tithing. But he knows to be in Washington is going to put his life in danger again. Senator Lee knows what he's doing. He knows the bigger picture. He is a third, I think how old is he? '71. He's younger than I am. Ah! So still a third grade grandfather. Okay, and so somebody, one of the Mormons from the crowd, yelled out, "We are the Danites." That's where we get the term from, and that became the name for the secret combination. And the current Mormon apologists say that the Danites are gone; they don't exist anymore. Yeah, that's what the Confederates said about the Illuminati. And what current people say about the Illuminati. Oh, dear God. Okay? And so Danite is judges in Hebrew, translated into English. Okay? One of the children of Jacob. So, let us go over the instances where Dan is being used, as we're at the halfway point of, I'm hoping to finish by the end of the hour here, so it's a 2-hour video. In Genesis 14, before the tribe of Dan and the person Dan of literal history, House of Israel, it didn't exist. Nonetheless, when Abraham, pre-Abraham, before his new name, heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. Location. But it doesn't exist yet. Oops. So then we go to Genesis chapter 30 with the first instance of the actual Dan. And Rachel has a servant whose name is Bilhah. Kind of helps to know Hebrew because of the birthright blessing usurpation that goes on. Remember, Yah is the Hebrew God? Well, in the land of Canaan, we've found Yah and Yahweh. And it's believed that they're Canaanite deities. This is a Genesis author in the Roman period time. It's not literal history. It's like David Moses from the Egyptians. And so he's the brother of Bel. And in the book of the Judge of God, Daniel, remember, strip the vowels, so it's not the Judge of God, or my judge is God. No, it's Judge, God, El, Canaanite deity. The God Judge, Daniel. There's a reason why the author of the book of Daniel used Daniel as the name for Daniel. It's the same reason why there are judges in the book of Judges, even though it's a different spelling. And so Bilhah is spelled as the wife of Bel. Yah is the usurper of the birthright and blessing of Bel. And in the Egyptian version, as Set is expelled for having lost the kingdom in the latter days, the wife, his wife, is then given to his brother who is dead and up in heaven. And so you'll see the judgment scene of the Egyptians with Osiris on the throne and his wife Isis and Set's wife Nephthys. Because it's post Horus restoring the throne of his father Osiris. Egyptologists need to know this if they're going to correctly translate these petroglyphs, hieroglyphs. They don't. And so, what you see here is Bilhah is the wife with Jacob. Just like Osiris has the wife of Set. Okay? This is where they're getting it from. Jacob is now Osiris. And so they're just repeating the stories of the Egyptians in different ways to repeat the prophecy, to help you learn the prophecy for the latter days. And so Rachel is Isis, spirit. Okay? So the spirit birthright blessing is Horus, but the literal physical birthright blessing is through the usurper, Bilhah. Dan is that child, on purpose by the author. And so this is then going to be explained further with more prophecies by the author of the book of Judges in regards to the man named Samuel. Or not Samuel, Samson. Samuel's a fun one too, but has nothing to do with Dan per se. Okay? Oh, right. And you know the meaning of Dan by the text. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan. Not because it's voice, not because it's son, but because it's judge. Do you not understand this? Don't botch up Israel. And so otherwise, Jesus in Matthew is named Jesus because he'll let sin prevail. That was just utterly humiliating of Nelson. And the church still doubled, tripled, quadrupled down. Still to this day, the manuals are changed. Oh my God. Okay. The sons of Dan. And I don't know why they put it in the plural, because even though the actual word is in the plural, maybe, because the M at the end is often used for plural, but Hoshim, it's Genesis 46. Verse 23. Hoshim is the name of his sons. They're all called Hoshim, or they're all called Hush. And is it Hush or is it Cush? It is Cush. Yep. Yep. And so and yeah, it's actually son of Dan. They translated it wrong. They made a Masoretic error here, and nobody apparently caught it. Because Hoshim is also put wrongly into the plural by these Masoretes in 800 to 1000 BC or CE. So yeah, this is an error. It's actually, and son Dan, son of Dan, is Hashem. And so it is name. That's the root word, Shem. There it is. The name of Dan, of the son of Dan, is name. But it's not H for Hashem. Son of Noah, name. Instead, it's the ladder symbol from Egypt, which refers to heaven. The name of heaven. The sun god at noonday in heaven. See what they're doing here? Birthright blessing usurped. Judge gives birth to Amen, the name of the sky. In Aramaic script, it's an altar, and then the reed symbol, and it's the second version of the mem but that would be a different language altogether. Alrighty. So you see what the Genesis author is doing here for you? Trying to help you out. Trying to help you understand the prophecies of the latter days. And so, Genesis 49. Here we are told of the blessing of Jacob, Israel, to his sons. And here we get to Dan. This is going to drop your jaw, as it did mine. 16, in Genesis 49, Dan shall judge his people. So we can go to Genesis 49. Did you disappear? And verse 16 and 17. For the blessing to Dan. Yeah. Dan is judging. This involves the verb tense, and it's correctly put into the present tense, even though this is a future tense prophecy. This is what I picked up being a Mormon as a kid. I'm figuring out a prophetic tense, and here it is, right here in Hebrew, all this time. And then you have which is interesting because it's just missing the N at the end of it. For Ammon. But nonetheless, yeah, Israel. Interesting. Okay, so Dan shall Dan his people as one of the tribes of Yah, Prince of God. Okay, he's going to be a judge. And the symbol of judging is the scales of justice from the Egyptian judgment scene. The scales of Ma'at, truth, order, harmony in the universe. And so the top is where Ma'at is. Often her feather is in place, the symbol of Ma'at. And so that is the judge of the judgment scales, where people's hearts get weighed on the judgment scales, and if they're not lighter than a duck, then they're a witch, and they get devoured by Amunet, the devourer. And that's the little hybrid beast. That's like a lion, an alligator, and something else, I guess. But regardless, if they need to pass their judgment if they're going to go before the veil to enter into the presence of Osiris. Okay, and so the constellation for Dan is the scales of Libra. The judgment scales. And I didn't do this. We can still do this because I take the pictures every morning. Oh, are you kidding me? Now, assuming it's in the picture frame. Oh, almost. It's cut off, but you do see the next one for Dan. And sure enough, this is the cool part. And I've checked. There are several different people who have assigned the 12 tribes of Israel with the 12 zodiac signs. They're all wrong. The one who got Judah with the lion is the one who got it right for Judah. But none of them got it right for Dan. There's one who came close who says it's Scorpio. Almost. You need to go up one into Libra, where the other one is also located with Libra. So let's get back to it. Verse 17. So Dan shall be a judge, Libra. Dan shall be a serpent, by the way. I don't know why these people couldn't figure this out. This is the revelation part. An adder in the path that biteth the horse's heel, so that his rider shall fall backward. And then verse 18 is added. I have waited for the salvation, Shua, O Lord. Let's check the Hebrew for verse 18. Yeah. Yahshua, Jesus. And Yahweh. Ishmael. Yah's name of Yah is sun god. Yahweh. Yahshua. Surprised Christians didn't bother to learn Hebrew to catch this. Dan is Jesus. Not too far off. Because again, what did Constantine do in the creation of Christianity? He usurped the birthright blessing of the Jews. It's called replacement theory or theology. Supersessionism. Jesus usurps Emmanuel. Right there. Dan. Jesus. Synonymous. And I'm still curious because we do need to look up the Lion House. We're going to go past 2 hours, it looks like. No. Okay. So we're going to set this up for Samson. Okay, so the symbol of the zodiac for Dan is Libra, right there at serpens, the head of serpens, biting the heel. Anybody remember the God of Davida? Simpsons version was hilarious. In the God of Davida, baby. Don't you know that you drive me crazy? And so, should that be the theme song in the description below? Maybe. Other version is awesome. It's just the Simpsons are hilarious. Whereas in the God of Davida, No, it's that other song. Because the whole second verse of the song, the guy was just too wasted, and we don't know what he's saying. I can't. I got the tune, but I can't come up with the words. Anyway, another group, another band. Okay? So this is how fun scripture study is. I had no interest in pursuing any of this. I don't have questions. I already know all the answers. I know that if I'm going to go do some studying, I'm going to find bombshells. So here we are. I did it. I found another bombshell. And it's only so that you can benefit from it. Alrighty? So Genesis, the serpent, causes the fall. And so thus the star Acrab, with crab for Scorpio. Scorpio is a type of crustacean, thus the crab. Right there at the bottom of Libra, that is considered the tree of knowledge of good and evil for Arabs. Thus it's called Acrab. It is where people fall after being judged. And it's at the little claw of Scorpio. And the myths behind the designations of the constellations play this out. Your Achilles' heel is called Achilles for a reason, because of Brad Pitt. Literal history true, it was Brad Pitt. I saw it. It's all true. Troy, the movie, and poor Kwaku. Poor Kwaku. He thought that Troy wasn't real. The movie came out because they found Troy. And so they were reviving it with the news of Troy being found. And Brad Pitt played Achilles. Kwaku gets interviewed and thinks he's going to distract from the topic of question by talking about how Troy isn't real and was used. Oh my God. Oh, Kwaku. How sad. You got suckered by the great and abominable church. You think it's true. Now you know that they're racist and you're still in it. No honor for you, Kwaku. Sucks to be you. Okay? So the whole zodiac needs to be redesigned around the correct thing here. And so I'm not interested in redesigning it. You do it and I'll just get it from you and I'll know if you're right or not, like I did with these others. So that's the thing, is that other people come up with stuff and I want them to be right, but okay, and so Dan is involved in the Exodus as being of the tribe, but there's something weird going on. And Wikipedia touches on it, but they botch it up because they're under the belief that the Bible is literal history. And so they claim, according to the Bible, trying to be fair and balanced, that the information that they're putting in comes from the Bible. However, it comes from Constantine's usurpation of the Jews, making it literal history. It's not literal history. And so all of these scholars who are branching off trying to claim that the Bible is literal history. Oops. And so there's the plate of the house of Dan, a serpent for serpents. And where did I see that? It's the Revelation. Yeah. Book of Revelation. Revelation 7, 4 through 8 mentions that people from the 12 tribes of Israel will be sealed. The selection of the tribes of the 12 tribes does not include the tribe of Dan. This is important because somebody lost their second estate to be resurrected in the first resurrection, which ended in 2021 to start the second resurrection. That's why I'm saying we're all doomed. Mormons denied their Christ. They lost their exaltation to go to Zion. They have been judged and found wanting. That's settled in the promised land. John in Revelation is talking about the future. Zion. And so, because of this, Irenaeus for the development of Christian theology? No. 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 He's pre-Christian creation. He's not talking about Christ. He's not talking about Jesus or Christians. No. Oh my hell, people. And he's doing the, oh my God. He's been usurped by Christians. Just like Christians did to Constantine, who's the founder of Christianity. Oh my God. He was there at the first creation of Christianity with the Council of Nicaea. He's the one who turned the nature and character of Jesus into not real with the Museon. And despite being the founder, after he died, this new Christian religion said that, oh, I was there when he died, and he confessed that the church was true. What does he need to confess? He's the founder. Oh my God. They already got screwed up. And already the branch off of stupidity began. Oh my God. And so, yeah, oh my hell. But proposed that the reason for Dan not being listed, and so the book of Revelation is out when Irenaeus is alive. Okay? He's using a Jewish interpretation. And so he, among Hippolytus of Rome and millennialists, which is a modern day thing, isn't it? Chalasm is a belief which is held by some religious denominations. According to this belief, a messianic age will be established on earth prior to the last judgment and the future permanent state of the eternity. Well, I guess they're referring to a particular group back in those days. we're proposing that it's because the Antichrist will come from the tribe of Dan. Well, who's the Antichrist? Well, you see it in the book of Revelation. That's where they get it from. The beast and the false prophet. He's a false prophet because he's Antichrist. Who's the Christ? Man like Moses. Who's the child born of the virgin? Talking about a future. They knew and understood this was future prophecy, not about Jesus. That's what you need to get here. As that contemporary scholarship going over the book of Revelation before the creation of Constantine knew damn well it was in the future still. It was not about some guy named Jesus during the Roman period time. They will not acknowledge that here. They're trying to keep the usurpation in place, just like Brigham has done to Joseph Smith. And so, thus will come from the tribe of Dan. It's actually the tribe of Dan. But the Christ is to come through Dan as well, according to the Egyptian prophecies. And thus, the importance of the book stories of Samson. In the book of Judges, Inagada Davida, baby. And the reason why it's not the same thing is because they don't have judges listed here at the beginning of the book. It starts off, now after the death of Joshua, it came to pass that the children of Israel asked the Lord, saying, who shall go up for us against the Canaanites first, to fight against them? And the Lord said, Judah shall go up. Behold, I have delivered the land into his hand. Okay? And so they're just, the Jews, Nazarites, from 800 to 1000, put in that name for judges, which is different than Dan. And so despite that, they should have known better and used the name Dan, because they have Dan here in chapter 1. Judah, Simeon, Joseph continue to conquer Canaanites. Remnants of Canaanites remain in the lands of Judah, Manasseh, Ephraim, Zebulun, Asher, Naphtali, and Dan. And yet the Nazarites still put the other name for judges in Hebrew. They're not understanding what's going on here. And so here's Adonai Bezek. Aten Bezek. So they're talking about the Egyptian Aten. Kind of need to know these things. Alright, so in chapter 13 of Judges, we get the story of Samson. And this is real cool. And yes, it involves an angel of the Lord. Amazing. So we need to go to book of Judges 13. And scroll down to 20. Huh. Baal. Interesting. Huh. So much fun. Oh, I went down to 20, it's actually 15. Oh, interesting. Fascinating. Okay, so we need to go back up to 15. Noah. His father is Noah. Shem, name. What's the name? Emmanuel, sun god at noonday. Ammon, Samson, sun king. These Jews know what they're doing here. Fascinating. And so the M is high priest. high priest Noah, the great high priest. And then God of the messenger, Yahweh. Fascinating. If we just get this translated correctly. Fascinating. So let's just stick with the English for now, as we're already over 2 hours. And so Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, I pray thee, let us detain thee until we shall have made ready a kid for thee. And the angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, Though thou detain me, I will not eat of thy bread, and if thou wilt offer a burnt offering, thou must offer it unto the Lord. For Manoah knew not that he was an angel of the Lord. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, What is thy name? Malachi. And thus Malachi refers to the latter days, the day that shall burn as an oven. Just like the sun is burning like an oven, but shadow cast on the earth with the deaths, and days that shall burn as an oven, and the deaths of the king, and deaths of the kingdom, and the usurpation, and the restoring of the kingdom. All being played out here, that we may do the honor. The angel Lord said unto him, Why askest thou thus after my name, seeing it is a secret? Ammon, the Egyptian deity, the sun god at noonday, secret name. So Manoah took a kid with a meat offering and offered it up on a rock in a hat. There's a reason. Peter, seer unto the Lord, and the angel did wondrously, and Manoah and his wife looked on. For it came to pass, when the flame Baal went up toward heaven from off of the altar. And so again, we're seeing Bela, the wife, who is the one who gives birth to Dan. Now we're seeing Baal in this author's usage of the same deity of the Mesopotamians. And so, yeah, we need this translated correctly. This is cool. From heaven off of the altar. And so, yes, Elijah versus the priests of Baal, trying to see whose deity will cause the fire from heaven on the altar. Yeah, I won. Jesus didn't show. That the angel of the Lord ascended into the flame of the altar. And so, yes, you're seeing Malachi in the day that shall burn as an oven being played out here. This is where Malachi gets it from, and playing it back and forth. Here's the story version of Malachi's saying it. Just like Isaiah, with Matthew's author telling a story of it. See how this is all working in scriptures? And Manoah and his wife looked on it and fell on their faces to the ground. But the angel of the Lord did no more appear to Manoah and to his wife. They're having a vision of the Christ of the latter days. And it's a man and a woman. And who do they give birth to? The guy. Then Manoah knew that he was an angel of the Lord. Oh, whoops. We're not, that's the wrong knew. And Manoah said to his wife, Surely we shall die, because we have seen God. That's verse 22. Yep. We have had a vision of the kingseer. Yeah, kingseer. N is at the end. And the Mazarites botched this up. They don't want to acknowledge a kingseer, because that's who Samson is. They're having a vision, thus they're using vision for seer in Hebrew, and Elohim. Manoah. Isis. Yep, I see what you did here. Isis. It's a derivative of Isis from the Egyptian, the god Isis. Yeah, and be nice to translate this correctly. And then Mot, death. Yep, the death sign. Yeah, death sign. Sure enough, Samson gives you the death sign. Fascinating. Alright. But his wife said unto him, if the Lord were pleased to kill us, he would not have received a burnt offering and meat offering at our hands, neither would he have shewed us all these things, nor would, as at this time, have told us such things as these. And the woman bare a son, and called his name Son King. Notice he doesn't get a new name after the completion. And the child grew, and the Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp of Dan, because he's a descendant of Dan, which I think we got to go before to learn about Manoah. Yeah, verse 2. And there was a certain man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren, and bare not. And then an angel appears, and now she's pregnant. Seeing the pattern? They're all sticking to the same themes, but just telling different versions of the story for you. They're all following the law about a man like Moses. They all know the dates. They all know when in the future this is going to take place. They know the prophecies. This is just wild. Between Zorah and Eshtaol. Okay. Yeah, the god Isis again. Fascinating. And oh, the throne of Ra and the son of the god Isis. We need this translated correctly. Okay. So then we gotta go to the top and next. Okay, there's 14. It's unclear as to whether I'll need it again. I mean, obviously I could, because we got Timnath now, but I expect to see a lot of Ra's in the spelling of words here, as we already saw in chapter 13. That's what you should expect to see, because he's the sun god. So you should expect to see words with Ra in them. The sun. And Shemesh is is a Babylonian Semitic version of the sun, which is Ra. This is why you need to know your Hebrew, Aramaic, Babylonian Semitic Hebrew, Paleo Hebrew, Biblical Hebrew, Greek, etc., etc. Okay? And so, this is wild. And Samson went down to Timnath and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the great and abominable church of the Islamists. What are they doing calling it Palestine? Because that's what they're doing. The Philistines were inhabitants of Gaza. Gaza is now called Palestine based on Philistia of the Philistines. They were Phoenicians, Greeks, the sea people. They weren't from Saudi Arabia. They weren't from Assyria, Mesopotamia, Babylon. No. Why is Islam calling their land after the sea people, who were the invaders occupying the land that's not theirs, and claiming Israel is the occupier who doesn't belong there? What the hell? Take care of this here real quick. Are you kidding me? Now remember, this is all prophecy and revelation. Has nothing to do with Islam per se, but very coincidental. Because Christianity has reinterpreted the Jewish scriptures and believe that the book of Revelation has to be taken literally, and so evangelicals are purposely fulfilling the villain part. Islam is fulfilling the villain part to attack Israel, so that all the world is against Israel. They're purposely fulfilling the villain part, claiming that they're the righteous ones. That's stupid. But this has nothing to do with Israel. Nothing to do with the Jews. It's about you, Mormons. You. And so this is your Christ, the Mormon. Section 103, verses 15 to 17. The man like Moses. Section 85, verse 7. The one mighty and strong. Verse 7 is Deuteronomy 18, 15 through 19. Verse 8 is verse 20, the false prophet. Revelation, the false prophet, the beast, who's the king, who is put on the throne in the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah, king of Judah, by a foreign government called Babylon. With Revelation chapter 12, verses 1, 2, and 5, from the Joseph Smith translation, gets moved to verse 3, and right there in 1 Nephi chapter 1, verses 8 through 10. Prophecy and revelation. And so thus the birth of Jesus, the same year, in prophecy, but it's Herod the Great. Moses, born, but it's Pharaoh. All the same prophecy. Okay? And so now he's a Danite, but he's being separated from the Philistines, who are the great and abominable church. The Danites are the great and abominable church who usurped Joseph Smith. Dan. I can't forget Nelson when Monson dies. Do not let me forget. Nelson, death, Monson. Because remember, which zodiac is Dan? Where's the position on the scales of Libra for the judge overseeing the judgment? I already caught on to all of this stuff, but as I find more scriptures, it all ties together. Okay, and so he's marrying, he's a Mormon, so he's marrying a Mormon girl in the Mormon temple. He has 2 failed marriages. And thus the lion house, which we're going to get to. And so, uncircumcised Philistines. Well, we are circumcised, aren't we? It means they're not of Joseph Smith's covenant. A Pharaoh who knew not Joseph. And so, yeah, he wants her. Gotta have her. Talking to Father Ammon. I want her, Dad. And father and mother knew not that it was of the Lord. So yeah, prophecy. They don't realize that they gave birth to the prophesied Mormon Christ. And they too will betray him. And so he kills a lion. He's just a young'un. It's a young lion. This is the first death. This is the first solar eclipse. They're giving you the revelation of the day and hour of when the prophecy prediction of the future is going to happen. August 21st, 2017. This is the new year of the ancient Egyptian religious calendar. It's Monson's birthday. It's the symbol of the death of the theocracy. And theocracies back in these days. And so it's both the government and the religion. The collapse of the leaders, the collapse of government. 3rd Nephi chapter 7. And it forms the Paleo-Hebrew A, the first and the last letters, because the bottom of the A, 2 X's, and is the word for sign in Hebrew. In Genesis, signs in the heavens, the birth of the Christ, the waters parting, the dry land appear. It helps to know Paleo-Hebrew. And also in Jeremiah, is it chapter 10? about the Christmas trees. And it uses sign. It's all about the prophecies, giving you the date of when it's to occur. This is the first year of the latter days. This is when the Mormon comes to Mormons in Utah, Judah. Judah is in here to try to save them, Shua, from bondage of the great and abominable church, so that they can go build Zion. Mormons missed it. They rejected their Zion and their exaltation. They lost their second estate. They have become sons and daughters of perdition. Mormons aren't listening anymore anyway. So they're not going to be offended, because they'll never hear it. Just like they'll never know who their Christ is supposed to be, and so they'll continue to die and not know that Jesus was supposed to be their Christ, because he's not. Never shows. What happened to him? Is he taking a long piss? Real long bathroom break. It's almost 3 months now. And I'm curious about tomorrow. There's a sign in the heavens for tomorrow. It's still... I have to wait until he dies. Then I can go and check and see how it applies into the pattern of all of the prophets' deaths. So frustrating. It just keeps on going and going. Never dies. All these excellent opportunities for symbolism. Because Monson dies. Revelation chapter 12, verse 4. Stars falling from the tail of the dragon. Perfect. At 10:01 p.m. that night. We can go to that. And yeah, I do have the picture. I used it in this morning's video, as I made a new version of a picture for you. So why, well, yeah. There it is. And so, yeah, I knew exactly what the announcement of the solar eclipse meant. Thus, I pulled out my Urim and Thummim, upgraded it technically, and did the video. That's still my #1 video, but because I did this video, because I became popular, because it exposed the church, somebody else is actually demonstrating the gifts of prophet and revelator, where we only claim the titles and deny the power of prophecy and revelation. They ordered YouTube to shut me down, and it's just a year after. 255 views for the one 5 years ago, but July, which it's about to turn 7 years, or 8, when did I do this picture? It's back when I had 1.3K subscribers. It's now 1.39, although the past couple of days I've been going down on viewers. I'm losing people. And so it could go down to 1.38 by the time I upload this, which it looks like it may be tomorrow. But anyway, and so yeah, the church is on an all-out campaign against me because of this. I have the gifts. You will know me by my fruit. You know Nelson as a false prophet by his lack of fruit and his corrupted fruit. Really? Let God prevail, huh? It's just, dear God. Anybody should know. Anybody can figure it out. They don't. They won't. So this could go on for 3 or 4 hours. Ooh. Man. So yeah, I'm just laid back. I'm low riding it. Nobody wants Zion, and so what's there for me to do? You know, this video is the type of thing that I would be doing for those who want to go to Zion and are in Zion. Is I'd be doing the corrected translation. I'd be continuing on with the Ezekiel 37 prophecy. But nobody cares. Nobody wants to know. And so what good is it if everything is lost and hopeless? Everybody's going to die. So yeah, you're going to miss out on cool videos like this because you don't believe them. Of course, if you're listening, you do believe. But yeah, the church got me. They attacked me. But yeah, notice that the eclipse happened right at the star Regulus, the king star. I mean, the more I learned about this, the more my tongue dropped. This is just incredible of how these ancients knew this. And we're not talking about the Bible ancients, authors of the Bible. They got it from the Egyptians. The Egyptians knew. Their new year is not on our calendar day at the same time every year because it's a 360-day calendar. And so their new year is on different days of our calendar every year. And so for them to know of a total solar eclipse on a new year, which their prophecy of the Revelation is the start of the latter days. Horus goes back to Egypt to confront Pharaoh. Set, let my people go. That's the Egyptians. And this isn't 3,300 whatever. No. No. Egyptologists are purposely denying the truth and allowing Assyriologists to take precedence. Yeah, we're the oldest nation of civilization because Noah in the Bible was literal history, and that was in Turkey, and that's part of Mesopotamia and not Egypt. And so it was those who migrated down. No. Have you never done your DNA? Have you never seen that the origin of you is in Southeast Africa? Not Mesopotamia. It shows that you migrated up into the Nile River and then up into the Levant of the Middle East, Mesopotamia, and then eventually into Europe and into Asia, and then Asians of China would eventually develop, and then they'd travel across the waters, create the pyramids of Central and South America. That's why they knew to build pyramids, because they all came from Egypt. Pyramids are much older than scholars want to acknowledge. Daniel Jackson was right. Sort of. Little Hollywood liberties. But nonetheless, once I finish Voyager, that's what we're going to next. Stargate. And so yes, we're talking 300,000. And that's only from what has been discovered still remaining in the fossils of the bones of the humans that have been found there. I think I'm not sure whether it's my mom's or dad's. One of them is 200,000 is the oldest skeleton that they found. The other one is 300,000 from the skeleton that they found. And eventually they would merge. That migration obviously was different for the family groups of the tribes in Southeast Asia. And so no, the flood story is not about Turkey. It's from the Egyptian Ogdod story. Don't let the Mesopotamians fool you. It's not literal history either. They too are getting their prophecies about the Egyptians. As they migrated out, they changed the language, and thus the names of the characters of the stories that originated from Egyptian were carried over. And so Esther, for example, is Ishtar of the Mesopotamian goddesses. The book of Esther. Mordecai is Marduk. The phonetics are the same for the consonants. Don't get screwed up with the vowels. That'll lead you astray. And so it's the same prophecy and revelation style of the Egyptians. It never happened. And so they're trying to prophesy of the future. Purim is what it's all about. That bad people are trying to murder Mormons. The Danites are trying to murder the Mormons. And so the Christ, in this particular case, she's a woman, but she's the mother of the Christ. And so she's Isis of the Egyptians, who gives birth to Horus. And that's how she saves. That's how the wife, the mother, is the savior. Because she gives birth to the Christ, who is the one who is the savior. But in the Babylonian story, they leave that part out, and she becomes the actual savior. Similar to Judith. She's the judge. That's the Apocrypha. Right? There is a Judith in Judges, isn't there? But I think there's also an apocryphal Judith as well. And thus, the actual name of the mother of the Christ is Judith, because Esau marries Judith. His birthright and blessing is usurped, and he marries Judith. And thus, Judah. Who betrays Joseph of Egypt? Judah. So the wife is Judith, the mother of the Mormon Christ. All prophesied. And so they don't give the name of the mother of Samson, but they do say Noah. The high priest Noah. Fascinating. So yeah, pay attention, guys. You've been given all the answers, but you've been blinded by the great and abominable church. It's trying to murder you. Ready? So, yeah, we do need to cover it. And so, the scales of Libra, the night months and dies. Revelation chapter 12, verse 4. Quadranted meteor showers at the tail of Draco the dragon. The third largest meteor showers of the year. Third part of the stars fall from the tail of the dragon. Falling stars. Death. Okay? And so that's why I'm curious about tomorrow. Sign in the heaven in the likeness of things on the earth. But again, oh my God, why? Perfect opportunities and you're letting them pass by. So, but yeah, the final one is the sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from heaven during election time, right before election time, actually. And so, yeah, we're already into overtime. We're in the millennium right now. Jesus didn't show. Mormons don't care. They're still waiting for Jesus to show. They don't understand that if they're going to want to see their Jesus, who's in the clouds of glory, rather than the sign in the heavens, that they've got to kill themselves to go see him. Mormons aren't willing to do that. Although there are some that are. That's disturbing. Some murder-suicides of families, couples. Very disturbing. Anyway. And so, Monson dies. 1001. Fulfilling biblical prophecy from Revelation, chapter 12, verse 4. Who succeeds Monson? Brigham Young set it up to be Nelson. Spencer W. Kimball purposely had Nelson set apart and ordained first before Oakes. Nelson usurped the birthright and blessing from Oakes. For being the leader of the church. Because that conference, it's announced, the Oakes is still obliged to the world, and cannot give up the world to follow Jesus. And so Nelson is first. He had some cases that he didn't want to just quit in the Supreme Court of Utah. So, all right, Nelson gets to be the latter-day false prophet. Not Oakes. Which, yeah, Russell Marion, Lucifer, baby name meaning, hilarious. How did they know? And so, Mars. Russell, red. Marion, star of the sea. Red star of the sea. The planet Mars, the red planet. Mars is Nelson. Sign in the heavens in the likeness of things on the earth. Prophecy and revelation. Do you deny it? You're not listening if you do. Nobody's listening. And so, where is he? Where's Mars when Monson dies? I already told you the answer. The top of the scales of judgment, where he usurps it from the other planet who's also there. Jupiter. Verses 1, 2, and 3 of chapter 12 in the Joseph Smith translation. He's the Christ of Mormons. Jupiter is the Roman deity, of the Greek deity Zeus, of the Hebrew deity Yah, of the Egyptian deity Amen, the sun god at noonday. They're both at the top of the scales of judgment. This is the first year where they now are the fulfillment of prophecy. We now have the match between Moses and Pharaoh, Jesus and Herod, and Lehi and Zedekiah, and any others that are involved, depending on the story that I'm not able to Daniel and Zedekiah, or Nebuchadnezzar. See? The prophecy's been fulfilled. All Mormons, if they had studied their scriptures, not been deceived by the great and abominable church, would have known this. But they don't know it, because they weren't studying, because the great and abominable church deceived them. But here he comes, Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, too. The second vision. And so even, the beginning. Evil disposed and designing militant persons. The Danites. Brigham Young. Joseph knew. Joseph Smith Papers, he knew. And that's why I did the video on, for his birthday, and the annual memorial that I do. And went over why John Solomon Fulmer was asked to go with Brigham, along with the one and only woman of the Smith family, Hiram's wife, and her sons. Because Emma and Lucy stayed behind. They got taken care of. But Hiram's wife was told to go with Brigham. And thus they did when Heber offered to take care of Hiram's wife and children. No sex, so he did not have babies with them. That would have been even more abominable. But what Heber did to Joseph Fielding Smith Sr., dear God, he really did a number on him. But that's where we get the book that I have now packed away again, that we learn of the Danite plot for the latter days. And so even though he's talking about Jesus being given the keys from Lucifer, it's not correct, because he's a Danite. He's been falsely manipulated. And so it's actually Emmanuel getting the keys from Nelson, the Mormon getting it from Nelson. But we still have to wait, and nobody wants to go to Zion, and so I don't know how it's going to happen. And it may not happen because utter destruction is coming, because nobody wants to go. Things get fulfilled through faith, not feeling and ending there. You've got to fulfill the prophecies. You've got to follow the Spirit and produce the results in the flesh. Otherwise it won't happen. Because I fulfilled all the prophecies and didn't even realize it until after I had done it and after I came to learn. The prophecy dreams that I've had, I didn't know they were prophecy dreams when I had them. And so I didn't know how to rig them to make them come true. I realized they were prophecy dreams after I had fulfilled them. And it was when I was in Canada, the 86 big dream that I had in the summertime. And in the dream, I was on a bus driving on a single road, and there was some kind of a grain on either side, and it didn't look like wheat. Didn't know what it was. And so when I was up in Canada and was coming back from work on the single road from Lethbridge to Alberta, I saw the fields of canola on either side, and all of a sudden my associative memory reminded me of the 86 dream, and I went, crap, my wife is going to leave me. Ta-da! And so even though I knew she was going to leave me, I still tried to make sure I wasn't the cause. But I just saw that episode on Voyager, the paradox. It's a something paradox, time paradox, where you know of the future And so you purposely try so that you don't let it happen, but in trying to prevent it from happening, it happens. That's what happened. Oh my God. So yeah. And then I found out after marrying the second one, it's a dualistic prophecy, and thus fulfilled the prophecy of the 2 failed marriages. So yes, all of this is just awesome, and it's very frustrating. The Mormons don't want to believe. The church has to be true as false. And I'm the enemy. And ex-foes, likewise. It has to be false because the church is false. Everything has to be false. Whereas Mormons, it has to be false as true. It's just so stupid. I want Zion. I didn't want this responsibility. I didn't want to become the fulfillment of prophecy. I just wanted to go to Zion. I didn't want to be a part of this evil, corrupt world, because I'm hearing from my peers all the abuses that they want to do to all different groups that aren't them. And now they're in positions of power and authority over other people. And they are setting it up to get their kingdom as kingmen, to take away the free men's freedom. And Mormons who are in position to know this don't see it. Okay? So, yeah. Nelson and death of Monson just blew my mind. So yeah, this is what I was looking for, was the signs in the heavens. In Revelation, I found it, and thus went to Elko. Sign in the heaven and likeness of things on the earth. Revelation's prophecy of the flooding, that I was in there for the Family Discovery Day as a book signer. What a mess that was. But yeah, fulfilled prophecy. And I told that to Daniel, he and his wife. His wife works for the church, and so she was able to get us the extra spare ticket and the extra room at the hotel for myself and Delilah. Lilith. And that he was asking me afterward if I had some kind of a feeling that this was something good, and I said, yeah, this is something I can branch off from, and that kind of I shocked them with my answer, which was weird. But when she left me, he left me, because, couldn't remain married. And therefore, I'm an apostate, anti-Mormon, anti-Christ Korahor. And I'm doing videos about how Adam fell. That's going against the prophets of the living Jesus, who failed to show. And so, yeah, it's sad that Mormons have to remain in darkness rather than coming to a knowledge of the truth, to understand the bigger picture of what's going on. The liberal Mormon who sent me an email telling me of their problems with the Danites, and chose instead to blame me and say they're going to call the cops on me as a Karen. God, hell, people. It's coming, and people are just in denial that it's coming. They're not doing their study, they're not doing their research, they're remaining in darkness, and when it all hits the fan, they're going to go, well, how did this happen? What's going on? Why are you doing this to me? I'm the good person. I thought the church was true. So, yeah, let's finish up, because he's a descendant of the Danites. My mom, Judy, through the Yearsley family, were part of the Danites in that lineage. And the others are not. My mom's dad's side is a Smith, but from North Carolina, not from Joseph and Hiram, Joseph Sr. And so he was a slave owner, plantation slave owner there in North Carolina, the ancestor, who raped a 14-year-old girl, just as Mary raped as a 14-year-old girl, to give birth to the coming of the Christ. And she was a slave girl from West Africa, which originated from Egypt. Usurpation of the birthright and blessing. And because of the rape, she was still kept a slave, but I guess the child, I'd have to check the Constitution, because I think if you're born and naturalized in the United States with the 14th Amendment, but which is after the Civil War, so no, it was before the Civil War. So, yeah, interesting. But eventually, they produced my grandfather, who married my grandmother, as his father was the one who joined the church. And had the Franklin Smith, I think was his name, who had the chicken farm up in Logan, and then would go on to eventually sell it. And I've heard recently that the bird flu swept through the chicken farm up in Logan and slaughtered all the chickens because of the bird flu. Should have left it in the family. But nonetheless, and then my grandpa would go on into World War II, and thus my balding headline was from him, as my dad told me when I was a kid, as he was the one who was cutting my hair, though he betrayed me too, as prophesied. Ra betrayed Emmanuel, and so similar to the betrayal of Esau. It's all following the same pattern, and blindness is for the solar eclipses of the two eyes of Horus. And so thus Isaac is blind, passing on the birthright blessing to Jacob instead of Esau. And my father's side, my grandmother is a Fulmer, from John Solomon Fulmer. And my Yearsley and Fulmer intermarried into the Hoops family, which the Hoops family comes from Hiram Smith. And so that's how I come through Hiram, and also through John Solomon Fulmer. John Solomon Fulmer was the only Mormon who was there with Joseph before he died. The last one. And he didn't want to go. He wanted to stay there and protect Joseph. Joseph Smith told him, you got to go because you got to fulfill prophecy. Go with Brigham. And so Desdemona Fulmer was married to Joseph after Joseph was dead, not in 1843. Everyone in our Fulmer family knows this. We all knew John Solomon Fulmer had the pistol that he gave to Joseph, and we knew that Desdemona Fulmer, his sister, was sealed to Joseph after Joseph died, not in 1843, as the church is telling you. Yet you don't believe me, you believe the church. Whether you're a Mormon or an ex-foe, nevermo. Nobody cares to know the truth. Joseph was not a polygamist. Never was. These are the Danites. The great and abominable church of Jesus. And so, yeah, my grandfather's side, on my dad's side, yeah, we're the sun god. By name, good God. Like Godfrey. It just phonetically changed in America. And then Sel is soul for solar, sun. And we were from the British Druids of Britain, who were the ones who maintained the prophecy of the coming of the sun god at noonday. Amen. And so, with St. Patrick, they added the myth part, prophecy part, to the actual St. Patrick, and then the Catholics turned him into a saint. But his death day became my birthday for the prophecy. And all because of the one guy who wrote the legend of St. Patrick that would get him sainthood. And so St. Patrick's Day is the prophesied birthday, as Brigham Young usurped the birthright and blessing of the quorum of the 12th president from Thomas B. Marsh, and then excommunicated, as they now claim that it was posthum, it was in absentia, but not for the others. It's because of me. It used to say Thomas B. Marsh was excommunicated on the 17th of March, 1839 by Joseph Smith. He was in Liberty Jail still. And so when I exposed this, somebody went back in and changed it to in absentia. Default. Excommunicated by default. You don't do that. He can't be excommunicated. Joseph Smith has to do it, or the High Council. There wasn't enough in the High Council to form a quorum to conduct business. There was no excommunications legally. But yeah, those other guys still say they were excommunicated. It's not in absentia. You gotta make all the changes, not just the one that I exposed, because I'm gonna expose the others eventually until the church falls. People just don't realize how big of an influence I've had in your life, and how the church is so panicked by me. This is why YouTube's attacking me, and I got the 3 cyber terrorist attacks in the video I did this morning. That was a person violating the Sabbath day to protect the weak and frail church that can't defend themselves because they're not true, and so we've got to force them to be true by committing crime. Yeah, 2 o'clock. 2 hours. So it's now 3 hours. So we're going on to 4, aren't we? And so we're pretty much done. But yeah, like I said, everything has been fulfilled. I didn't do it knowing that I'm forcing the self-fulfilling prophecy. It's not. It just happened. Because when I got my patriarchal blessing, I thought it was weird. And I was being told by the Spirit, but I didn't understand it. Just like my ancestor, who was the patriarch. And as I did that for the mission video segment that I've never been able to continue on with. And now it's just being used generally if I talk about my mission. And so it can be used for this video now. And so yeah, I'm going to be in a high and holy calling, but he didn't say the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Like my mom had dated several guys who all said their patriarchal blessing says they're going to be the president of the church one day, you better marry him. None of them became the president of the church. It was a trick to get her to marry them. Men could be deceptive trying to get a woman to marry them? To have sex with them? What? That would take us down a rabbit hole of darkness. Dear God. So yeah, all of this. Death of the lion, 21st of August 2017, and Leo the lion. Judah. And so yes, the betrayal of Judas to Jesus, Judah to Joseph. Yeah, 21st of August 2017. That's what it means. But here they're doing the actual solar eclipse with the sun god and death. That's the symbolism for this. Betrayal is for the other two stories. But it all is referring to the same thing. And so, yeah, in Revelation 12, that's when the Mormon Christ is in Utah starting his ministry. That's when I started my website with the business thing so that I could upload videos and audio as well as transfer YouTube videos to be shown on my website. But then when I sued the church the very next day, all of a sudden the brand new company that bought out the previous company now screwed up my website. I was ruined instantly. I was getting 3,000 views per day. Now I'm getting 3. What? And they were trying to tell me, oh, there's going to be some different. Oh my hell. What is the real numbers? They won't tell me. It's now an algorithm. We were projecting that you're only going to get 3 views per day rather than 3,000. What? No, something wrong is going on. What is my real numbers? Well, these are algorithms. They're projecting. No, they're not projecting right. Give me real-time stats. No, we can't do that. This is the new program we're doing. And so, yeah, I was ruined. Anyway. And so, yeah, the rest of Samson, the death of his wife, by burning, annular eclipse, ring of fire, 14 October 2023, in the constellation of Virgo, at the womb, over Utah. Judah again. And sure enough, Judah is in the text, because the Judah is being referred to, and they actually hand him over to the Philistines. They're involved in that. And then the final one, yeah, Delilah, his second wife, which this one is the lion house, the feast of the wedding, carcass, and the bees and honey, and thus the riddle. And so thus, the riddle is the prophecy that Mormons don't know about. They want to know the riddle so that they can murder the Christ. They want to know who the Christ is so they can murder him because they were waiting for Jesus. And so Delilah is then used, his wife, who's cutting his hair to betray him. And yeah, she cut my hair. And I'm kind of disturbed by this because my hair is wavy naturally. And so it's the wave that's causing this issue. And I'm always having problem back here too. But yeah, she was cutting my hair when we were married. Room number 13, as I showed you in the picture in the previous video this morning, that I made brand new. And the Lion House that we were also at. Number 13 for the Knights Templar of the Yorkites, where Joseph Smith Sr. was the Master Mason in Canandaigua, New York, for 9/11/1826, the birth of the Book of Mormon and the church. Yep. So yeah, I guess we can go to the Beehive House and or the Lion House at least, because they weren't originally called that. It was the mansion of Brigham Young. And so Truman Osborne Engel is the designer, also involved in the design of this home. He's the one that put the inverted pentagrams on the Nauvoo temple after Joseph died and Brigham Young took it over. He assigned Truman, his brother-in-law, as they say here, to be the fill-in designer to redesign the outside of the Nauvoo temple with the inverted pentagram, and thus put the inverted pentagram on the keystone of the doors of the Salt Lake Temple, and thus on the Logan Temple window. And his son, Don Carlos, would go on to put the inverted pentagram on the Eagle Gate sculpture, illustrating the Illuminati for Lucifer. And let's see. The house got its name from the statue of a lion, sculpted craftsman William Ward III, above the front entrance. Lion of the Lord was a nickname for Young, the betrayer, Judah. The design is a Gothic revival mansion with 20 gables, but the Lion House was not the original name. When did it become the original? Young's other official residence. He just keeps changing residences. He had the one on the hill, then he's got the Lion House, and then he went to the Beehive House. He just can't stay with his wives. He can't stand them, and they keep divorcing him. Oh my God. They're not saying when it got changed. Oh, wait a minute, here. In 1870, the Young Ladies Department of the Ladies Cooperative Retrenchment Association was founded in the Lion House, now called Young Women. In 1920s, the Lion House housed the domestic science. No. It's not saying when it got changed over to the Lion House. Why? But yeah, it had a cafeteria-style restaurant. And you can get honey. Great honey. Adjacent to the church's headquarters. See how the prophecy got fulfilled? It's just incredible. It's not saying when it got called the Lion House. (1856). It was constructed in 1856. I guess we got to go to the church's side. The Lion House was the family home of Brigham Young, first governor of Utah. First king of Deseret. I'm leaving that part out on purpose. They don't want you to know of that scandal. And second president, oh God. It was constructed in 1856 and gets its name from the large stone lion statue situated above. So was it always called the Lion House? And so yeah, it's Truman Angle who did design these, but I thought it was called something else. No, I guess not. We'll just, okay. If you're not going to tell me the truth. So it was called the Lion House. So yeah, from the design, with the guy who put the statue of the lion there, it got called the Lion House. So it wasn't originally, but that was the nickname, and it carried on, and now it's called the Lion House permanently. And thus fulfilled the prophecy of Samson, Sun King, Emmanuel, of his wedding. Okay, I think we're done. Oops. Oh, doesn't matter. Oh, man. And so, yeah, the final one, Bruce R. McConkie doesn't want to tell you that it was the temple of the Philistines. Because of the columns, they're for the temples. And so he's first imprisoned, which is also part of the prophecy that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will imprison in jail and secretly hidden away and tortured, trying to murder him. Before he would then be blinded with the 3 days of darkness that they've already gone over, so they're repeating it in a different story form for you, just like Jesus. It's repeated in different ways throughout the story, because it's not literal history. And then he's chained to the temple pillars, and so that's what he's able to do, is knock down the pillars to cause the fall of the great and abominable church. And so yeah, the Book of Mormon tells the story prophecy, or tells the prophecy of the fall of the great and abominable church, but Samson is a story version of that. Even yeah, others talk about it as well. And so that's why Joseph becomes Pharaoh. The Genesis author didn't want to say Pharaoh. Nonetheless, he restored the throne of the 18th dynasty, which is Tawut Mose IV, David Moses IV, the one who had the dreams. So, yeah. And yeah, my brother's also in here. Last year, the Australian solar eclipse. Yeah, Samson, the two foxes, or the foxtails, ties them all together. Foxtails, Pisces, that's where it was located. Solar eclipse in Pisces, at the tails of the fish, over Australia, and Fox lost its lawsuit in court last year for lying about the election fraud. And Fox, my brother, was ordered by the church, threatened to lose his job if he didn't attack me and shut me down on YouTube. Everything. They are panicked about YouTube videos. And so, yeah, this year, the final year, getting attacked. The Valentine's Day massacre. I still haven't recovered. And the Mother's Day massacre. And then the other takedown of my video, so that they can then justify when I complain and say, what are you doing? Stop it. Leave me alone. Stop being mean. Oh, you can't tell us what to do. Banned. You can't watch YouTube videos anymore. And thus, I can't watch my own videos to help trigger the algorithm to get them seen more. And this new attack worked initially, but it then rebooted to allow me to get 400 views per video. And as of yesterday, they've readjusted the algorithms to get me down to below 10 per hour. So it's 300 per day. And so, yeah, this is a full-on attack on me, full-on war. I have exposed this church as false, and they refuse to allow me to warn everybody. And this should scare you. These are Danites, ordered by the Danites, who are leading this church. Lucifer is the leader, the technical leader, literal leader, as prophesied by name, as I am prophesied by name. They are on an all-out war against me, and I have no one on my side to protect and defend me, just like Joseph. But Joseph at least had family and friends, even though none of them were with him. But, yeah, you do have the letters of Emma with Joseph, both for Carthage and for Liberty, which I tried to make sure to put in the complete works of Joseph Smith. But yeah, my exposing of this church is the Danites, who usurped the birthright blessing from Joseph Smith, and thus the prophecy of a Mormon to restore. And it happened. And nobody wants to go to Zion. Everybody wants to die with drinking the Kool-Aid in the great and abominable church. And that's just sad, that everybody's making excuses, blaming me. Nobody wants to admit the truth, because the church has sabotaged Mormons to create a faith bubble. Whether you're liberal or conservative, it's a faith bubble. Conservative Mormons reinforce their faith bubble with violence and threats and crimes. Liberals use guilt trips and wanting to call the cops on you. The church is true, and I'm going to call the cops on you for criticizing the church. Okay, Karen. But yeah, it was sad. The death sign of Samson, taking out the great and abominable church at the same time. That's 19 July, or not 19 July, well, he talks about it, but Revelation 19, verses 11 and 17, on the back of the white horse in Pisces. And so, yeah, it's in Pisces like the one last year, but moved over a bit. There is a pattern, but it's so rare that it doesn't happen the same ever. And so for the Egyptians to know this, and we're talking 30, or not 30, it's pre 12,000 BCE. That's how long the language has been around, because of the construction of the Giza pyramids, the way they were constructed. Nile River is the Milky Way, and the 3 Giza pyramids are the Orion's belt, and they have purposely arranged it for when the Milky Way was in that exact pattern with the Orion's belt, and that was pre 12,000 BCE. Those people would have seen it that way. Those people would have designed the pyramids to be built that way. And so all this talk by Egyptologists that it's from 3,000, no, because there's evidence of oceanic seashells on the pyramids up at the top. There's ocean erosion on the big pyramid. Not just the erosion of the limestone, but yeah, there was a flood that occurred. And thus the Ogdode story and the birth story and all of it is all the same thing. Waters part, dry land appears. They knew what they were doing in their symbol construction. And so yes, the capstone, not the chief cornerstone of the cornerstone, is the symbol of the Christ. Joseph Smith is the cornerstone. Mormons rejected and has become the capstone. That's the head. And that's the tree of life. And the seed of Joseph Smith Sr. have to follow the iron rod to the tree of life and the fruit of the latter-day Christ. So I did that one the other day too. So, alrighty. There's the Danites for you.